Hello, Alex here, and today I'm going to talk about imposter syndrome and anxiety. Let's get into it. So yesterday, Matt Day released his own video about imposter syndrome and anxiety and how it affects him. And that really resonated with me because I've suffered with both of these things for my entire life. So basically, I just want to share my thoughts and experiences, I guess, because I'm a firm believer in normalizing talking about feelings, emotions, whether they're negative or positive, in the same vein as Tom Scott Ridgewell, normalizing being open about suffering from depression and things like weight, which I've suffered with severely in the past and still do to a lesser degree. So we'll start with anxiety. I was relentlessly bullied as a kid because I was a smart-ass know-it-all, like having grown a lot in the last 6-7 years in particular, emotionally, I realized I was a bit of a dickhead. So I won't say I deserved to be bullied. I mean, no one deserves it to. But I guess you could say I earned it to a certain degree, and that completely shut me down. I ended up a total introvert in my shell for about 10 years after the peak of the bullying. And it didn't help that there were certain authority figures, I won't go into details, who refused to help because they felt I deserved it. So I have, trust issues and anxiety, and I don't find it easy to take positive feedback from people. That ties into the imposter syndrome as well. I mean, I suffer from panic attacks. I have Xanax in my medicine box over there. I have had to take Xanax while working. Just a small dose, a quarter of a pill, just to solve a panic attack and get me back functioning. Now that's only happened once while working, but it is, something that can happen. My own personal anxiety has caused me all sorts of problems through my life. The main ones, as I said, being trust and inability to take positive feedback well. Some people who know me well know that very clearly. I refuse to take compliments, even if in my head I know that they're fair. I won't say deserved because that sounds very arrogant, but if it's a fair positive compliment, my heart will still tell me no. Anxiety has held me back. It's stopped me from taking certain opportunities I should have in hindsight, and I won't say I regret not taking those opportunities in the past. In a sense I do, but I'm trying to be more positive about it and take note of the fact that I've accepted that flaw in the past and I'm growing beyond it to be more ambitious. Then imposter syndrome is where it gets real, so to speak. So I mentioned before, I've been doing photography since I was 15-ish. So like Matt, essentially half my life at this stage. I'll be 30 in a few months. At a technical level, when it boils down to it, I am a good photographer. I'm not world class, but I have the technical and creative knowledge to do what's necessary when it's necessary. And I say that very particularly. I rehearsed that line before I started recording just because, I can't even look at the camera right now because I don't want to come across as pretentious or arrogant, but it's true. Like, objectively, I have a level of skill and a level of creative flair that allows me to carry out certain tasks photographically that I couldn't have years and years ago. And I do possess that skill, right? That is something that is a fact. I'm not saying every photo I take is good. I take a lot of shit photos, to be blunt, but I try to learn from them. My percentage of keepers is rising as the years go on. I can see that in my Lightroom catalog, and I just know it in my heart. So, there's growth. I am measurably getting better. I'm getting more shots correctly exposed. I'm getting more shots well composed and in focus. That is something that is improving over time, the technical stuff. Creatively, I've been trying new things. I'm finding a bit of a style, sort of. I'm getting there slowly. And while you shouldn't define your success based on others' perception of your work, more people are liking my work without me pandering to the algorithms and what's popular. Too much. I did my first paid job photographically when I was 15 and a half, maybe 16, around that kind of time. It was taking photos of just skirting boards. I'm not sure if they have a different name in other countries. Just taking a bunch of photos of those for a catalog for a company that makes them. I did not do a good job in hindsight. The main reason being that I wasn't told I was expected to give fully cut out photoshopped like PNGs on the day until I got there. That was absolutely unfair. But even then, the actual photography, I was just kind of thrown in there, and that put me off for a while. But then I started doing religious ceremonies, baptisms, christenings, Holy Communion, confirmation, that kind of thing in the town I grew up in. And I was okay at it. My D90, 18-105 and a flash, or the 50mm 1.8. I got good shots with that. I have some of the nicer photos of some of my late grandparents, from those events. I was able to capture nice things then. But I never felt that I deserved to get paid. Ever. I did refuse eventually to work for free, even if it's a token payment. I don't drive, so, you pick me up, you give me 20 euros, 50 euros, depending on what the job was, fine, we'll call it even. Just because I firmly believe that if money is involved, people are a lot more serious. People aren't as likely to flake out when it comes to actually money changing hands. And I've done all sorts of things since then. I've done, long all-day conferences, which I've organized. I actually will co-organize the actual conference itself. I've done week-long international science conferences. I've done guest lectures. I've done all sorts of headshots, dozens of family photo shoots, environmental portrait shoots for friends who were leaving different universities around Dublin, to move abroad, as far away as Hong Kong, and wanted pictures of them in their environment. And I was able to do that, but I still always had this nagging feeling, why are they asking you, of all people? Why don't they ask someone good? Oh, it's just because you're available. It's because you're cheap. But there were two things this year so far that have really... They haven't stopped me feeling, like a fraud. And actually, I meant to say this earlier, but I should address, I'm not Kyle McDougall, I'm not Matt Day, I'm none of the big hotshots. I know that. I'm not trying to pretend I'm up in the big leagues. I've barely 200 subscribers. But what I do have is, the experience and the willingness to put my insecurities out there, which I think will be helpful for some people down the line. Just because of my experience, I've had people approach me looking for tips on how to teach them the basics of photography, and I do it. But it always nags me, that same thing. Why are they coming to me? It's just because I'm nearby. It's because I'm available. But I think it's important for those people, a couple of whom do look up to me in certain senses, to appreciate the fact that, or for them to appreciate the fact that I don't always know what's going on. I don't feel super comfortable with this kind of thing all the time. Me putting myself in front of the camera this year was a very deliberate and conscious choice to help me grow and accept my confidence in my abilities. Again, I don't mean that in an arrogant way, but as a way to kind of fight the imposter syndrome and hopefully have some faith in my abilities. But again, there are two things that have happened this year that have really made me start to have more faith in myself. Those two things were shooting a roll of aerochrome, which I'll do a video on down the line, and shooting my first wedding last weekend. I just finished the pictures from it yesterday. I'll start with the wedding. I was terrified. 2 cameras, 3 flashes, 3 lenses, 2 primes and a zoom, the whole shebang. When I do a video on that, you'll see I brought basically everything, including the proverbial kitchen sink. But it worked out. As much as I can brag about creative whatever, apart from one shot, which we couldn't get because of time constraints and one of the family members for the shot being very frail and very tired by the time we got to take the shot. He wasn't kind of able for it at that stage in the night. I got all of the shots. Some of them are overexposed, some are underexposed. You shoot raw, you can fix that. But I got all of the key moments. I got the first kiss. I got the dance. I got, the other bits and pieces that you need to get at his house, her house, the chapel, the reception, the speeches. They're not perfect, but as a collection, I did a good job. And I say that objectively, not subjectively. Maybe the bride and groom won't like some of the poses. That's fine. I can go through the other shots. I didn't delete anything. I just, flagged them so I can sort them and show them the alternatives. But objectively, in focus, well exposed, well composed, objectively, maybe not subjectively to them. I did a good job at that. And I feel it's important when you do a good job to actually acknowledge and tell yourself that and reaffirm, yes, I shot a wedding. I was working for 13 and a half hours. I was exhausted. My thighs are still sore from the crouching and squatting and run squatting. I did well. And that is something I'm going to keep telling myself to fight the imposter syndrome. Now I know I could do a wedding. So if I'm asked to do one in future, I will not be as hesitant to do it. Depending on where, when, how long it is, all the other factors. But in terms of my ability to do it, I now know that I can. And that is a big step for me photographically, to get over that and have some confidence in myself. The other thing, shooting the roll of aerochrome. It's expired 400 speed slide film. It's incredibly pernickety, shall we say. I got mostly very, very good shots with that because I was extremely wary of wasting it. There are a few shots, I'd say 3 out of 25, that are pretty crap, but most of them are at least good, and there are 5 that I want to print. When it comes down to it, I've proven to myself this year that I have the ability. Imposter syndrome will never leave me, I don't think. Anxiety will be a part of me for probably most of my life. But I guess the point of what I'm trying to say here is that when you do well, don't be afraid to give yourself a little pat on the back. Don't go too hard, don't break your back. But if you do a good job, acknowledge that and remind yourself that you have done well and that you can do well. This was completely unscripted, mostly just rambling. I'll try and get it out today. I hope you enjoyed, and if you have similar experiences, let me know in the comments down below. If you like this video and enjoy what I do, please consider subscribing or even donating to my Patreon, where the tiers start at just €1 per month. If you don't already, follow me on Instagram at Shaka1277 for new pictures every single day. Stay safe, and bye for now.